DErnest Johnson, Demetric Felton, Rhamondre Stevenson, Jaret Patterson. Oh my. Week 7 running back ads coming at you next. Week 7 is here, and backfields are getting more beat up by the week. We find out now that Kareem Hunt possibly going on short-term IR after injuring his calf on Sunday. Chubb already missing Sunday's contest with a calf injury, opening the door for DErnest Johnson and Demetric Felton. Now, which one of these guys do we go after? Well, I'm going to start with DErnest Johnson. Running back is the best bet to get the lion's share of touches if we don't see Chubb come back for Thursday's contest against Denver. And we've seen Johnson have moments in this being his third year, and he had some moments last year while Chubb was out. Now, most of the work did go to Hunt, but they used Johnson as an early down guy, and there were multiple times that he got double-digit touches. Now, with Hunt gone and possibly Chubb not playing this week, we're looking at a guy that should, at the very least, be the first and second down back. That's going to have value, specifically in standard over PPR. We've never really seen him be used in the passing game, so we don't know what his role is. But, Chubb is not incapable of being used in the passing game, and they don't use him. So if they're going to do this similar to the way that they have, and they're going to go, well, you know what? We're going to use Jonson in the Chubb role, and we're going to use Felton in the Hunt role, then Johnson's going to be a standard league guy, and Felton's going to be a PPR guy, and these guys are both going to be low-end flexes, in my opinion. Denver is not the easiest matchup. It's not the toughest. It's not like this defense is playing lights out at this moment, but they do have a decent enough front that you got to wonder, is Johnson and Felton up to the task of moving the ball for Cleveland on less than a week's notice? So Johnson right now is my number one ad of the week. I think he's a guy that, once again, if Chubb isn't available to go on Thursday night, he is going to be heavily used on running downs. I think Felton in PPR format for desperate owners that are, that did the 0 RB format or whatever. I think Demetric Felton is the guy to go for in the PPR format and should have a role in the passing game. We also have to remember that this offense might not look the same. You have Baker Mayfield dislocate his shoulder for a second time already in this season in the game, which could open the door for Case Keenum to get the start against his old squad, the Denver Broncos. And I just, that, like I said, turns these guys into middling flexes, but guys that kind of need to be added is as running backs are kind of falling like flies at this moment. So DErnest Johnson, early down guy. Demetric Felton, third down guy. We've never even seen Felton run the ball yet this season. He's had moments in the passing game. In fact, I think week 2, he had like a 50-yard touchdown reception off a screen pass, but we haven't seen him run between the tackles once this season. DErnest Johnson at least has that under his belt. So standard league, going Johnson, PPR, going Felton, and then we'll move on to New England, where Rhamondre Stevenson had some moments there in week 6, kind of redeem him from his terrible performance against Houston. However, New England had 4 offensive linemen missing in that game with the Houston Texans. 2 of them came back in week 6. The running game looked better. Stevenson also being used in the passing game. And we also know how much Bill Belichick likes to use multiple running backs with the injuries to other running backs, like James White gone for the season. Harris has been beat up a couple times this season, also fumbling the ball. You're looking at a guy that might have opportunity to take over this backfield. I think it's kind of slim, but at the very least to have a role in an offense that likes to run the ball. I don't know how run heavy they are. I mean, they've definitely been leaning on Mac Jones a little bit more than I would think, but that also leads more to Rhamondre Stevenson than Harris. Harris is not used in the passing game at all. Rhamondre Stevenson has the ability, has the chops to be used in the passing game. So he is a guy that definitely has some appeal, has a avenue to playing time, and if anything ever happened to Harris, would become a workhorse back. So I think in either standard or PPR, Rhamondre Stevenson, for anybody who's looking for depth, anybody looking for a dart throw, you can do worse than Stevenson, who is playing the Jets, by the way, in week 7. So I have taken questions on Sunday mornings of, should I use this 4-string running back or this 4-string running back? There are desperate owners out there, and for those guys that are that desperate, Rhamondre Stevenson is still very available. Now we're starting to get into the extreme dart throws. We're dealing with running backs that are beat up, but we just don't know how beat up, right? Like, think about Antonio Gibson in Washington. This guy we know is dealing with a microfracture in his shin, but what we don't know is, why did he only get 10 touches? Why does he need an MRI on Monday? Well, maybe this shin injury that he's been playing through and they thought he could play through all season is worse than they thought. Maybe there's something else going on. Fact is that we might see Antonio Gibson miss some time. And if Antonio misses some time, I don't think they do what they did on Sunday and just lean 100% into J.D. McKissic. That could very much open the door to rookie Jaret Patterson, running back, 1% rostered, so 99% available, virtually free out there. And we don't know much about this guy. He's got a handful of touches. For all we know, they would lean on McKissic. For all we know, if they lose Gibson for any amount of time, Washington will look the trade avenue. We know that Marlon Mack out there right now is on the trading block. We know that for some reason fucking Philadelphia fucking hates Miles Sanders and doesn't want to fucking use him. We know that fucking goddamn Ronald fucking Jones is in the fucking perma doghouse in Tampa Bay, and you sure as fuck could have a worse running back than Ronald Jones. So I think there are guys out there for teams to target to go out there and try to acquire, like a Washington, if Antonio Gibson isn't able to go. If he's put on short-term IR, if they just shut him down for the season because they don't see this season going anywhere because Dallas is already 5-1 and in control of that fucking division, and fucking Washington's defense is terrible and their offense is goddamn terrible, and Taylor Heineke's okay, but he's just, blah. What are we doing in Washington, right? So in that case, if you are, just see what you got in Jaret Patterson. So all this rambling to say that I don't know much about Patterson. Nobody really knows much about Patterson, at least at this level. And you can do worse than add him from a team that looks like they might be missing their starting running back, and their backup running back is undersized and is typically used as a third down back. And they don't have anybody else. So Jaret Patterson, you're the next man up. At the very least, if Antonio Gibson's not there, he will have a role. So going back to that, if you're a needy team, if you're a needy manager, Jaret Patterson, 99% available, is a decent add. Seattle is a fucking mess of a backfield right now. Why didn't we see Alex Collins in overtime on Sunday night? Well, I guess he's dealing with some sort of like quad hip type injury that he left late in that game after having an awesome game against a good defensive front. Like that was a great fucking game from Alex Collins against that Pittsburgh front. But he might not be able to go week 7. Oh my God, what happens if they can't go week 7? Well, I mean, DeeJay Dallas looked like the next man up after that. The guy is definitely the third down back with Alex Collins in there. He was definitely used on third downs while Collins was still in the game. And I know Travis Homer was as well. But DeeJay Dallas was the guy they used in overtime when Collins wasn't there. So my number one ad in Seattle is Alex Collins, right? Because he is the guy if he's healthy enough to go. But we are at a big if at this point. Now, my number two guy in Seattle is DeeJay Dallas. I think that's an easy ad. I think it's kind of a must add for desperate owners. Seattle likes to use the ball. DeeJay Dallas isn't sexy. He's not going to blow you away, but he runs hard. And that is the one thing that I always notice about Seattle backs, and why I always like Seattle backs is they always run hard and their legs never stop moving. And that to me, it has some sort of value. And we saw that with Alex Collins, right? Like Alex Collins, just another castaway out of Baltimore, and Baltimore didn't want anything to do with him. And he's coming in and proving the fact that he can be a good running back in this league. And DeeJay Dallas has, I think, the opportunity to come out and be serviceable in week 7. So that would be the guy. If Alex Collins doesn't go, is the next guy up. And then we have to look at Rashaad Penny as well, coming back from IR, possibly. We're not quite sure yet, but he might be coming back from IR. And there's a guy that if Collins doesn't go, maybe he's full go. Maybe they give him the work, and he's the most talented guy of the leftovers after Collins. It's definitely Penny is the more talented than DeeJay Dallas, but always dealing with injuries, coming off of IR, not sure he'll be 100% go. And we never really get a straight answer from Pete Carroll. He's way too optimistic basically every time he's talking about an injured player. So that also is why you have to be really cautious about any of these running backs. If you're going to use Alex Collins, you really need to be cautious. Keep your eyes open on Sunday to see if he's going to go. I mean, they're getting a tough matchup with New Orleans off the bye. That is going to be tough. So whoever starts is the guy is going to get a lot of work, but it's going to be a tough road to hoe for him. A couple guys that you should just look for at this point. 65% owned, Khalil Herbert, 179 yards, touchdown on 40 attempts. Gets Tampa Bay D in week 7, so that is an extremely tough matchup. Teams at this point have been basically abandoning the run against Tampa Bay, or not even trying to run. Chicago's not going to do that. Chicago is not going to lean on Justin Fields against Tampa Bay. They're going to try to play good defense against Tampa, and that offense still not clicking 100% yet. They should be able to stay in this game for at least a little bit, ride Herbert a little bit, and see if he can get yourself an easy 6 and get in the end zone. But it is going to be a tough week for Khalil Herbert, but he is getting a ton of work right now, 35% available. And then Elijah Mitchell coming off a bye for San Francisco, 61% rostered, so 39% available. They went back to making him the guy in week 5. Everybody might have forgot about this guy coming off the bye. Should have been picked up going into the bye. But Elijah Mitchell, 39% available, is the guy in San Francisco, a run-heavy offense. And that is a must-add, in my opinion. Even if he's your wide receiver 4, you're pretty happy camper, as he's going to be getting double-digit touches as long as he's healthy. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any start-sit questions, I join Mike Lynch, Rashaad Taylor for the Fantasy Scramble on 1080 The Fan here in Portland, Oregon. You can text in your start-sit questions on Sunday morning. We answer them at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, a half hour heading up to kickoff on Sunday mornings. You can send your start-sit questions in to 503-250-1080 and listen live to the link that I have down below in the description. Thank you again for watching, and make sure that you see my week 7 wide receiver ads.